Hello and welcome to episode 168 in this series where I'm programming an NES game live on Twitch from scratch. Although a lot of tool programming recently, but hopefully we'll get back to the NES side of things once we get this export process working properly. The sort of hold up there obviously was that we changed the way the map format was working, and so that was all well and good for the code that we wrote, but now the export tool doesn't export in the appropriate format. So last stream we were able to loop through the metatiles that are used in the map to determine which ones had what palettes that were used, and in doing so that gave us the ability to confirm not only that we had we weren't exceeding the number of palettes that we wanted to or needed to use for that screen, but it's setting us up for scanning the map now to determine if there are any other places where we would need to do a palette swap. I'm half thinking right now that maybe we skip the full map scan for the purposes of just basically getting us into a position where we can finish the export process with whatever we scan here, because ultimately whatever we have here is probably fine for this map as we have it, and we can come back to the process of scanning through this map all the way after we're done kind of exporting things and confirming that it looks good on the NES side. So I think that's what I'm going to do, just to kind of try and bring things back to the assembly code a little bit for a moment, for a hot minute, and then we'll have to come back and determine if there are any other palette changes that we want, and we'll do that by dropping in a tile like this here and seeing if that introduces yet another palette. It actually shouldn't, because in the work we were doing last stream, what we found was that when we came out of this loop, the current palette set that we had only utilized 3 of the 4 palettes that are available for the background, which was a good thing. So again, I feel like we're actually in pretty good shape for just moving forward with the export process and getting that taken care of. Yeah, you can see these 3 palettes here, these groups of 4 digits actually have values in them, and then this last set, this is the palette that wasn't used. That's why it's still all FF there. So yeah, I think we're good with this part of the process. Now what we need to do is we have this thing, I think we pass in, called map palette. We do. So we're going to overwrite that with our current palette. Because basically current palette is what we want to use. I just don't really want to go change the rest of the code that might be using map palette. Whatever value it has coming in is irrelevant, really. Oh, mem copy, sorry. And the sizes are the same, we know that. That's why I'm using current palette in both of these sizes. So this will just stop us from having to change the way we're handling anything with map palette here further down the line. Now let's see here. This code is constructing. Okay, so that's one thing we didn't do. This part of the code is iterating through and finding all the metatiles, and then it is constructing. This is constructing the metatiles through creating an image, but we've already basically done this. So this is actually all kind of not needed anymore. So let's just we're gonna if-def this out just for the sake of keeping it clean. I don't want to try and comment it out because then you're going to have nested comments, which is a problem. Let's see here. So this is literally what we wrote last time with the process optimized palette. The only other thing we need to do now is we need to, after we find the matching palette, we need to reprocess the metatile to use one of those palettes in the same order, right? Because what we did in process optimized palette was we said, okay, we have these colors, we want to go through and make sure that we can find a palette or update a palette to match the colors that we need for that metatile. And now we have the palettes that will work. So each time we go through, we get a matching palette, and then the problem is that the colors don't necessarily line up. So the palettes in the metatiles that we looked at do not necessarily line up with the final palette alignment that we had. So we can go to, and we'll just look at one real quick here. And I don't know, we'll just choose one at random. Yeah, so like this ordering here, if we go back and look at this for 1 second. Oh, I can't update it if I have it open. But what we'll see is the so the ordering is 0E, 0C, 29, 37. 0E, 0C, 0E, 0C, 29, 37. So this does actually line up. But I don't think we can guarantee that that's actually what is going to happen every time. Of course, I choose the one example where it does. Let's see. Is that a good example? No, that does line up. Am I going to find that I'm wrong? No. Okay, so this uses a palette that starts with 0E. It has 1, 2, like this one does after. But then it uses 37, which is not the third color in the palette here. So obviously that's not going to work. So this goes back to, I'm pretty sure we have a function that already re-indexes the metatile. I just got to find it. Palette. Hope everybody's having a good evening. Thank you for stopping by to see the stream. It's been a long week, but a good week. Some good stuff going on. And I'm glad it is Friday tomorrow. Is this it? This might be it. So this, oh no, that's the image. That actually takes the raw image and looks up the indexed version and turns it into the indexed value for the palette. Well, I'm also excited about tomorrow being Friday. Yeah, actually I'm gonna end up only working half a day tomorrow because they're doing a concert for my daughter at school. And one of the nice things they've done because of COVID and not wanting large numbers of people in a room or auditorium at once is they've moved the concert to outside, which means that out of necessity they have to be earlier in the day. And while I'm sure that's inconvenient for some people, like because of work and stuff, I much prefer having the concert be at, I think it's at 2:30 instead of at 6:30 with the baby, because then, you know, he can come. We don't have to worry about keeping him up late and stuff like that. It's just a much better situation for us. So this is not it. I could swear I had something that converted a metatile to a new palette already. Metatile to image. Process find matching palette. Find matching metatile. At some point I'm going to have to get rid of some of this old code. I guess I don't have... That's weird. I thought for sure I had something that would reprocess the metatile. Yeah, exactly. It's like a win-win-win, or however many wins it is. It's a lot of wins. I'm happy about it. So that finds the image matching tile, metatile to image, draw metatile, draw sprite, create, save sprite, write sprite image data, load sprite. Sprite metadata, load palette. I thought for sure that I had... We can get rid of this, that's for sure. This is all old stuff that was being done with the old way we were parsing the JSON data that we don't need anymore. Yeah, we don't need this either. I don't think, anyway. Okay. So, alright, I guess we're going to have to write something to do that. Weird, Alright, we'll do a quick implementation of this here, because I thought I had implemented something like this already, given all the different iterations of methods and stuff that I needed for a variety of other processes that we were trying to do, but obviously not. Simple enough. So convert metatile. No. Assign metatile palette. How about that? Metatile pointer, the metatile, and then palette. So yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick mem copy of the palette to the metatiles palette, and then we're going to use palette as the source. Oops, wait a minute. Size of metatile palette, and then we're going to use palette as the source, and then we're just going to say it's 4 because we know that we only need 4. Hopefully it'll be less rainy than today, though it wasn't too cold. Yeah, it wasn't too bad today. I actually have no idea what the weather is going to be tomorrow, and you know, you just wear warm clothes, and it says cooler tomorrow, high of 49. So we'll just bundle up, and hopefully the kids will get through the concert at a reasonable pace, and it should be good. All right, so we're going to copy that over, but we'll do that at the end because we need to re-index based on the new palette. So what we'll do is we will, not 16, it's 256. Do a simple iteration over the image, and we'll say we're just going to convert it to the raw colors first, which is pretty straightforward because it's just the image used as an index for the palette. So we go through and we convert it to the raw Nintendo palette colors, and then we've got to do it again. Well, we could do it at the same time, really, where we have to find the palette color that matches and the index for it. I'm tempted. Let's waste some memory, shall we? Because this will work out faster. It's faster to code, faster. No loop involved in this. So we'll call this UN8 lookup. It's 64. So we're basically just going to. This is kind of silly, but we're going to say, okay, whatever the color is in palette 0. You know what? We need to accommodate for if it's an offset of 255, just in case it's not an assigned color in the palette. So we're going to offset into lookup whatever the color is in the palette, and then write the index for it here. So this is like a really basic lookup table where we're just wasting memory to do this because we only have 4 colors, but then that means I can do something like this where I say image is set to lookup empty image I. So whatever the color is in that, whatever the raw color that was that we converted, look it up in this table here, and then we'll have whatever the index is, and we're done. And then we swap the palette over, and there it is. Okay, so we don't need that anymore, or we don't. Yeah, we're here. So what we want to do is now what did I call that? Assign. Couldn't remember if I said swap or assign. Assign metatile palette. So that is our metatile here, and then it is going to be current palette matching palette. And this needs to be an address. And then we're going to save this so that we know that it is now re-indexed in the way that we want it to be. There's no harm in saving it this way, and then we know that when we reference these later, they have the right palette. We don't want to necessarily keep them all saved in memory. So let's see if we go through this and hopefully nothing crashes. We've rewritten out all of these metatiles to the new colors, and if we look at current palette, we should see that oh, it didn't do the update like I wanted it to. Why? That's 39. Let's take a look at what's going on with Mr. Palette 39 here. Or Mr. Metatile 39, I should say. Condition. We'll set up a conditional breakpoint so that I don't have to bore you with stepping through this 39 times. Map buffer I is equal to 39. Okay, and then we will... I don't think it is currently, but let's just double check. It's not. It never hit that. Oh, because we're not using that. Okay, so that was a bad example in a certain sense because we never actually used that metatile in the map. Okay. If we take a look at this and see, did any of them get updated? I would think that some of them did, yeah. So metatile 6 would have been nice to see what it was before. That looks wrong. Alright, so what was the tile set called? Oh, PNG to tiles. I should implement my help so I can actually have help, since my memory isn't quite what it used to be. Okay, so we were looking at number 6. That is what it should look like, which is what I thought. Let's take a look at what's going on in the code here. Because something is awry. Okay. Actually, you know what? A conditional breakpoint is still okay. We'll just do it on 6, since we know that's one that needs the adjusting. Okay, so here's our breakpoint. All right, so matching palette is 1. Current palette is that. Now, before we make any modifications, it's 0C29. Yeah, 0C29, 37. Okay, so that looks good. There must be just a bug in the way I'm doing this. So let's take a look at palette 0. Palette 1. Let's switch to hex for a second. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Anybody playing at home, can you guess? It's a simple thing, but very important. It has to do with this line here. give you all about a moment if anybody wants to chime in, but it's kind of silly. It was just a array thing. So the matching palette value, it's an index into, yes, it says what palette it is, but the thing is that the current palette is an array of, no, I don't want filter keys. It is an array of 16 values because each palette is 4 colors. And so it's 4 sets of 4. So that means that for the index that we have for matching palette, we have to multiply by 4. And I did not. And that will give you a palette that does not make sense. Yeah, I figured you'd know, Eugene. And the only reason I knew it is because as soon as I came in and looked at the palette value that I was getting for palette 0, it didn't begin with 0E in hex, which meant that the palette was wrong somehow, right? I knew that the first value is 0E, so I was like, okay, so what did I do? And immediately thought of the fact that it's probably some sort of indexing problem, because experience shows that that is a typical problem that I have and a mistake that I make. And that's the benefit of programming for a long time, is you learn the dumb mistakes that you make so that you can fix them more quickly than when you're first getting started. I know people get discouraged by the fact that it takes them a long time to figure out what's going on with their program when it's not working. But literally the only reason I can do it as fast as I do it is because of having almost 20 years more, 20 years professionally, but more years of programming, which I hate that's that big a number, but it's good. It's good that I have that experience. It's important. It lets me be more efficient at my job, and that's a good thing. And it's nice when you've built up that sort of repertoire of things that you know that you do, and you can just be like, oh, it's probably that, and sure enough it is. And yes, here we are. So current palette, you can see now the colors. Oops, oh, I full screened this. I forgot that I even supported that. Okay, so 0E, 0C, 29, and FF. So we've assigned that palette to the image. It's been reindexed to use the new colors properly, which means that the reassignment of the palette is actually working correctly. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. The only thing we probably should also do is not redo this process multiple times, because it's going to go in and try and reindex the image multiple times, which it shouldn't do, because we know that it has... Oh, actually, interesting. I was going to say we don't want to do it, but at the same time, what it did was it filled in that last color that we ended up adding to the palette, which, I mean, it doesn't need, because if it needed it, it wouldn't be able to index it properly, but I hadn't thought about that. I don't think it's still not worth rewriting the same file multiple times to do that. So we had... Yeah, so we have this file check cache here. Where's that defined? Okay, so we're going to reuse that now because we don't need it anymore for what we're doing. or we don't rather need the prior values. So we're going to memset that to 0. And basically all we're going to do is, I think I mentioned this last time, is we need to basically, once we're done with this metatile, we want to say file check cache map buffer I is equal to true. Like, we've processed it, we've updated the palette. Even if you update the palette later, it doesn't matter, it's okay, because that means that, you know, maybe we've added something to it, but it doesn't affect this metatile. So there's no point in processing this if we've already processed it. So we just want to say this. So if this is true, then continue. Right, so if we've already hit that tile, then skip it. So that should help us too a little bit in terms of efficiency. Not that, again, we're dealing with such large data sets that we really have to worry about it that much, but doesn't hurt. The process of re-optimizing the palettes alone is somewhat slow, so having to redo that for the same metatile multiple times is not necessary. Okay, so map palette, let's just make sure that I've got this right. So that's the map palette, and then current palette is that. I actually just want to see, before we go in here, does that only have, does map palette only have the 4? Yeah, it only has 4 coming in. Okay, great. So that's good. So we've processed the first screen of the level. We've dynamically generated what our palettes need to be based on the actual content. We've reorganized the content of the palettes so that they can be used across all the metatiles efficiently. Then we've rewritten the metatiles with the new palette data so that they actually use the right indexes into the palette. I should have brought a drink down with me here. And then we copy the palette over. So that's it. We're done with that. Now, this code I'm pretty sure we will never need, but just in case, let's get that, leave that alone. Okay, so we're done with loading the map at this point. We've got all our metatiles. We've got all the colors redone properly. We've got our palette set up correctly. So let's just let's see, where are we getting map palette from? Map palette is passed in as where's load map? Map palette is this in this export map call. So I want to see where we actually write that out, because I know we do somewhere. This is all commented out too. So that's not, what is this? This is doing some sort of lookups. This was forcing a bad palette write. Okay, we're writing it out here, but we are not, map type is not equal to repeat scroll. So the first map we have in this is map1.json. Okay. So it's not a repeat scroll, so we should go into this correctly. Okay, so it's not a repeat scroll, so create the text file, the palette table. Then we're going to write the palette name, which is just player. We actually write it to that? Why do we write it to that? Palette name is set to whatever the first palette file is. That's weird. I'm not sure why I did that. But that would mean that if we go to my desktop and open up NES Screen Tool for a moment and open that palette up, it should be why shooter assets player underscore neutral 0.pal. How come it did not? How come it didn't update that? Let's step through this, because this should have worked. Oh wait, did I? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. Those are for the sprites. I don't know why I did that. Oh, you know what? I got confused because the breakpoint was here, and I thought that was the breakpoint I created. That's what it was. All right. So now we've written the map palette out, and the map palette is, written to the actual map file. Okay, cool. So that means that we then, let's see. Okay, so that's done. Now, where did it write where did it deal with the metatile export? Let's see, what was the last thing that it wrote out? So it had those at 10 o'clock. That was just the updates that we did. So the map file is this. If we open this up in trusty old Fred, we should see our palette. So 0E12 2237, 0E0C 2937, and then that's it. Those two palettes. That seems wrong. There should be 3 palettes. There's only 2. There's only 2. Okay, there's only 2. Actually, I could see that. I don't know why there were 3 at one point. Maybe something changed. But okay, that's fine. So then that means that that's good. What I'm not as clear on, though, is the metatile export. because that was previously going based off of okay, so that was previously going based off of this map metatiles thing, which is no longer really valid, right? Because we have all the metatiles. All the metatiles are defined as metatile 1, metatile 2, etc. now. Instead of being loaded from the names that were used in the tile set. So let me think about this for a second. How we're not we're not re-indexing the map based on the metatiles that are used. The metatiles are indexed based off of the image, and the map is therefore directly mirroring the metatile list, and that means that we need to basically just take whatever metatiles there were exported, although we don't even know what they are. So maybe what we need to do is when we load the map, we should return back what the we return back the, let's see, I don't even think we're doing anything with map metatiles anymore. So in a way, this is kind of like simplified the whole process, which is not a bad thing. Yeah, we're not doing anything with that anymore. So really, we just want to return back like what's the maximum metatile number that we used, because then we can include only the metatiles up until that point. We can't do a sparse inclusion of the metatiles. Like we can't do, if we have say 50 metatiles and we want to say, well, we only used 2, 4, and 8. We can't just include only 2, 4, and 8 right now, at least, because we are not condensing those down to the ones that are used. We are just simply outputting them, and then the map is mapped to whatever metatile we actually had here in tiled. But we don't have to include every single metatile we generate, because ultimately that's pointless. We should only include at least up to the last one we use. So this is gone. We don't need that, I don't think. This was passing in these two values, but I don't even think we need that anymore. Like, it's used later on in the code. Is JSON map file full path? Oh, okay, yeah, don't worry about that. Let me get rid of just the, let me do this in the appropriate order here. So this is that, and we'll get rid of both of those things, and then we can do that here in the calling code so that it's not complaining. And then we can get rid of map metatiles because that's no longer needed. And then we got to look for any problems. So this is going to go away, and this is going to go away. And then what do we use? So this is the code that we were just looking at for the export of the metatiles, and we don't need it to work this way anymore. So we can remove that for now. What is using it here? Map object count, map metatiles, extra entities. I found it without extension. Why are we doing it that way? I don't know. Let's get rid of this too for now. Extra entities. Do we even use this? This whole section. Oh, I see. Okay. We'll fix that in a little bit here. Not too worried about that yet. All right. So that got rid of the unnecessary code there. Let's in load map. I'm gonna return back something called max metatile ID, I think. And basically what that's going to be is we are just going to keep track of what was the maximum ID. So we'll set it to 0, and as we iterate through the map, we can do it right here. Let me just set that to whatever that index is. So that we'll be setting, okay, this is the maximum that we need here. So at some point I should probably be splitting up some of this stuff, but not super concerned about that right now. All right, so where's that code that was doing the exports for the metatiles? It is here. So that's the empty metatile. So it wrote the empty metatile out, and then it's going to be real boring because we're just doing know we have like these palette names that we're exporting. I don't know that we even use those in any of the code anymore, or if we ever did. What is that writing this to? This is writing it to the metatile palette table. So we have those. Do we actually use this? Oh, I guess we do. Not by name. Like, we don't use... But... That's kind of bizarre, actually, because... we don't... What do we need that for? Well, we're doing a lookup based on the index here to load a palette. I guess we mostly do that for sprites. I mean, I know we call load palette at least a couple of times. Nope, just one time. And it's for sprites. So it's not even really that useful anymore. I think this was because originally we were going to have this lookup of metatile palettes that we were going to include, and then you could use it to determine stuff at runtime for the right palettes to use. But now that we can swap palettes in with objects on the map, and we're doing kind of a whole different approach, I think this actually is kind of unnecessary. We're only using it in this one place when we're loading the sprite palettes. This is loading the palette based on the map data, and then this is loading it based off of... Interesting. Alright. I'm not sure that we need to be doing this, even. Is that all this is doing? No. So this is also... Okay, I thought so. So this is still exporting the character file and then doing the include bin. So let's do this. Right, so we have, yeah, we need to get this. So metatiles, current work, metatile, load metatile, current working metatile file. We don't have that yet. Where's metatile file? So some of this, as I mentioned previously, I think we could have avoided a lot of the code that we have here if I had... I need this to be an sprintf. S. If I had started by trying to implement level data by hand first, in the map and building the game that way, and then looking at how that worked out, and then sort of building the tools from that process rather than trying to guess what it was going to be and then ultimately being incorrect. I mean, if you remember from a few streams ago, I talked about that talk that Casey gave about where bad software comes from, and this is like the perfect example of that. Now, I'm not under the time constraints, or business constraints necessarily that others are when they're doing this professionally, so I have the ability to go back and change the thing that I did because I made a mistake. But it really speaks to what happens when you try to design the unknown. Like, you can make guesses and hope that it works, and try to be as reasonable in your guesses as possible, and then implement it and be totally wrong, especially if you've never done it before. Like, I've never built an NES game, or a shooter for the NES specifically, even. So it was kind of weird, I guess, in retrospect, to go try to design tools to build that game without really knowing the lay of the land. Instead, I should have gone and written the code, trying to figure out how that code should have looked on the assembly side, and the data, like we did when we pulled level 1 in, right? We pulled in level 1, we figured out, okay, these are the things that need to change in the map. I implemented that by hand in the assembly code, and then we had to come back into here and adjust this to fit that rather than the other way around. So anyway, somebody cue the more you know rainbow, right? Sprint F. Okay, so we get that. We have our file name. We're going to load it into current working metatile. We're going to turn it into an image. We're going to export it into metatile temp, whatever that points to, except that we can't do that yet because we need to do this, I believe. So we're going to grab the file from metatile file, replace the extension to .chr, and then we're going to do the export, and then we're going to free the image, and then we're going to add the ink bin into, I believe that will be in metatile chr.ink. We do still want to include writing out the collisions. Let's see. Where is that at? That's just this, right? That's just a raw binary file, and we're just going to keep writing to that for the collisions, although we don't have any right now. What else? We're not going to write the palette out because it's totally unnecessary. We still need to do this. Oh no, we don't need to do that because that's in that palette file that we said doesn't matter. And then that's the ink bin. Okay. So I think that's all we need to do here now. We can take a look at the data that gets exported and make sure that it actually makes sense in a moment. Okay, so let's take a look at this. We've got a bunch of character files now. And if we take a look at that's fine. Where is this? Unable to open. Oh, is it still, the file still open? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now we should be able to open this. Yeah, so that's just including all those character files, asset filler.character. That is at the end. That should really be, why is that at the end? I don't know. I don't know that it matters right now to know that. Let's take a look. Yeah, that's the same. That's the same. Okay, I think I'm okay with that. So those are all the metatiles. We'll see if that's going to give us a problem, like if we're going to run out of space because we have so many. This is our sprite export. There is this question of like, is this going to mess up the entity list? Because we pulled that extra bit of code out, and I think we're okay, at least for now. This is sprite types.inc. This is exactly the same. And then what else did it export? Did it export anything else? I don't think so. That's basically garbage, I think. And this is the sprite character files. It should be exporting now. So that's all of them? Is that all of them? Oh. It's an assembly file, not binary. Explode bullet, player tilt, cloud, enemy bullet, a little bit. And are those here? They are, and they were put here today, so that fills me with some confidence. Perhaps it is false confidence, but I will take it for now. And this is just exporting a bunch of code. All right, so it made it through exporting the first part of the map successfully, or without crashing. Let's say without crashing. There's a bigger question as to whether or not this was actually successful. So the only way we're going to know is to actually try the files. I don't really want to completely break what I've got here. Make sure this still builds, right? Nope. Why? Metatile character. Did I remove? Oh, maybe because I removed those files. This is gonna be wrong, but it's okay. I just want to see. I want to see what's going on. Oh, this shouldn't be the way it is, but we'll fix this later. This is just, let's get the code to build and make sure that there's no glaringly wrong bugs in the actual logic of the code, forgetting about the fact that the imagery will be totally wrong. I'm okay with that. Is my controller plugged in? It is not. Ah. Sorry, I'm bumping the mic here. Where is the... Okay. Didn't have the controller hooked up. Okay, title screen is there and running. I'll take that. That's a good start. And amazingly, this is all looking okay. I know the background is... Oh, okay. Yeah, so this is what? Doing the repeat scroll, potentially? That's fine. Yeah. If we look at the PPU, none of this will have changed because I haven't copied over any of the files yet. So we're going to do some good old-fashioned source control, and we're going to just copy this whole folder just in case. What I want to do is I want to go to the export process here, and I want to start like bringing stuff in. So like here's map 1 bin. I'm going to overwrite that. And then the other thing we need to do, because we're not level data, that's the other thing we're not doing right now, is we're not writing this out. We need to write this out, so we'll get to that momentarily. But I'm excited to see what happens here. We'll see. It's very exciting. Here we go. All right, so far it's kind of what I expected. We look at the PPU. The palette is correct. We have our 2 palettes that we dynamically generated and nothing else. So that's good. That means that loaded from the map properly. I can still fire away. We're not going to see anything else though, because I believe we now need to update our this is the old one here. This is the new one. And oh, that's what asset filler is. I forgot. So asset filler is, it just fills in, I believe, the rest of the space in the character ROM so that the... Although we don't need that anymore technically because we're using character RAM, but that's what it's doing. It's filling in the space of all the stuff that wouldn't be used, I believe. All right, so let's grab that. Oh, actually, one thing I didn't look at. I believe it is not using. It's not using the paths, so that's good. That's what I want it to do. But it means we got to copy over character files. So that's going to be a little messy. We may have to force these character files to all end up in a folder just because of how many there are. Like, it's not an issue that there are so many, at least right now. It's more so that it's just messy that they're all here in the root folder. Ooh, there's a strong gust of wind. The whole house kind of shifted. I think this is okay. There's nothing that would have changed there that we want to copy over. Let's see. So the only other thing, let's metatile character, copy that over, replace that. All right, fingers crossed, people. It's going to build. All right, so that it didn't complain about too much content, which is good. I mean, we shouldn't have a problem because we're using character RAM. So, I mean, we shouldn't have a problem. It should be less problematic. Let's say that, because we're using character RAM, we're not going to overflow the character ROM like we might have if we had too much stuff. But that doesn't mean that it totally worked. Let's try and reload. Did I close it? Okay. Let's open this up and see how busted this is. It's pretty busted. Okay. So the question then becomes why? Let's take a look at the PPU first. Oh, it's scrolling, just nothing. There's nothing in here. Palette viewer. Is there actual data? Or is this all just solid? Palette. So does this correspond to anything in the map? Reload ROM. No. Okay. So I have some questions. When we load our level, well, so the other issue, let's look at it this way. When we load the level, we're just using the data that's in the map, right? So map1.object, that's the map file we're using. Oh, it's a pretty short map. That shouldn't matter, I don't think. Although, actually, that doesn't look right. What is 11? Metatile 11. Are we not processing something? That's just water. I see a 36. That's 36 hex. What would that be in decimal? Oops. 54. So wavelet one. Oh, I think I know what's going on. Before we were loading based on the map width and height being just the raw map width and height. I wonder if I am dividing it by 2 in both dimensions, because we're turning it into we were turning it into metatiles. Now it is metatiles, so we're not potentially outputting enough data. Yeah, we're definitely doing that there. And let's see if we have any other places where we are dividing by 2 for this work. No. Okay. So maybe that's all it was we weren't processing the whole map file. Although adjust the total size, map with the metatiles, map height and metatiles, and then we're doing adjusted total size is that. And what is that? Okay. That is allocating our attribute grid, which, whatever, I'm not going to worry about that right now. Are we doing anything with this later? We were before. We are here. Oh, here it is. Here's the problem. None of these need to be here anymore. Okay, so we were exporting only half, actually a quarter of the map. I think we were processing the whole thing, but we were only exporting that quarter of it. And looks like, do we have some additional metatiles this time? Alright, well, let's grab this. Place. Alright, we replace those. And then map1.bin is a little bit bigger. Let's take a look at it in here. Let's revert the file or reload the file. There's much more data. Okay, yeah, that looks way more like what I was expecting. Like these values here, these are the strips of the island here that should have been displayed that wasn't being. So that definitely makes more sense. So let's build and try again. Okay, good. Finished. All right, so now we're still getting nothing. Character viewer still has nothing. Why? All right, how are we determining? My guess is that we're not loading something into the character RAM. Holds the current entry buffer to load. Save this RAM. Not. Where the heck is that code? I know we had something. That was loading up. Thought it was just in the main assembly code, actually. address range. Well, I don't know that that's going to help us. Process title screen. Initialize audio. Load tile loop. Okay. Game character. What is that? That is shooter char inc, and that is shooter.character. That's the title screen, I think. And then metatile character.inc, which has then all of these files. Okay, and then the sprites. And then how do we know? We must just not be loading enough stuff because we don't know how much we need to load. I think I was just hard coding. We need to fix that. But that's a whole other thing. Yeah, we're just loading. How many? We're doing it based on character store a branch carry clear increment temp pointer blah load a compare to entity pointer. What is this? Oh, we're adding 32. 32. If we just made this 40 hex, we should probably see more stuff get loaded. Or some, any stuff get loaded. Let's see. If we look at the PPU, it should have already done it. Maybe not. Palette is loaded. We still don't see any character data. Oh, that has something. Why? How many can you have total? 255. And the metatile and the character data is how big? I don't remember off the top of my head. I guess I could figure it out. It's like, what, 8 bytes? 60. That's 64 bytes. It's 8 by 8, but that's not the actual encoding. Wait a minute. Wait a moment. What is going on here? Export character. Well, you know what? Instead of trying to guess if this is actually encoded correctly, let's take a look at what our friend YYCHR will tell us. Then this way you guys don't have to just stare at numbers. You can actually look at something that has some meaning, potentially. Projects, shooter. And let's just grab, what was the one that we looked at before? That was kind of interesting. Was it 6? Yeah, let's grab 6. Nada. Yeah, I thought this looked... It was suspicious that everything was wrong, but something... What is going on? Export character. Image. Yeah. Oh, it's... Why... Metatile to image. Is it because exported image is busted? Because it only has... Does it have anything in it? It should. This process... Oh, no, it's empty. Why? I remember coming across this before. We had a problem with this same issue. So this is it. This is the literal image data. But we had a problem where it wasn't creating the... it wasn't creating the indexed data, which is what we actually need for this process. Although, really, export metatile to image. Huh. Okay, so how did I deal with this last time? Do I have to... This is where we loaded it and got the image, and then we wrote... No, this is the thing I was just looking at. Load metatile. That's not the process I was looking for, though, because I want the process where we're actually writing out tile set. What did I call that? Untiled. Image strip test. Image strip test. Image. Oh, it's in this other. It's in this other file here. What did I do to index image tile? Load convert image to indexed. Export character. So this is looking at the width and the height. And it's only using the indexed image, which is not present. So that's going to be the main issue. Because it should just be 16 bytes, I think. 2 bytes. Why? Well, wait a minute. So then, how is it getting... Oh, it's 2 bytes, but it's 4 tiles, so it's 16 bytes. It is 16 bytes. But that's way more than 16 bytes. That's way more than what it should be. Or maybe I'm misremembering what the size is, but I thought it was... Is it 2 bytes per... 2 bytes per row? Maybe it's 2 bytes per row and 16 for the total times 4. Okay, so 64 is actually okay. If I'm remembering that right now, because it's been a while since we've looked at the metatile format. But because it's not indexed properly, that means we're not getting a... We're not getting anything, we're just getting zeros. But what I don't... We don't have a palette in there, so it should be the index based on... Yeah, it would be the index based on whatever the palette is for the metatile. Blech. All right. So load the metatile, turn it into an image. Why is that not? Oh, it is. How come you're not updating? Oh, well, you should be. It's just not doing it based on the palette. Oh, well, no, it just takes the raw. What? The what? Hold on a second. What's going on here? Because this looks like it's fine, but then I could have sworn that it was all zeros. So here's 6 coming up. So exported image. That has some stuff in it. Exported image indexed 0. So we step into there. Here's a new image, and then we're going to allocate the space for the indexed data, and we're going to draw the metatile, and we're going to take the image size, and we're going to grab metatile image. Oh no, why is that all 0? What gives? It's definitely not all 0 here. If we go back up the call stack, the metatile file is metatile6.metatile loaded into current working metatile, and the image is all zeros, and the palette is all zeros. Why? Let's unravel this sweater together. It's like an ugly Christmas sweater that we have to unravel together to figure out what's going on. So the file is metatile 6. Okay, so what? Why? It's not finding the file. It's not finding the file. And we know it's there because, I mean, I'm looking at it in the tool. So is this just a weird pathing issue, potentially? Give me a second. I'll be right back. I heard something fall over upstairs, and I assume it's the dog doing something he shouldn't. I'll be right back. Sorry, not sure what that was. Perhaps it was the elves on the shelves. I don't know. Very strange. Okay. So where were we? So can't load it. I'm going to see if adding // will fix it, even though it should be finding it right there anyway. Metatile 6.metatile is what it's called. So, and it should just find it. All right. So. No, it's not opening it. It just found. I had this problem. Oh, you know what it might be? There was something where I think we changed our current folder to... We changed the current folder to the exports folder. You can only assume that that's probably what's happening. And because those metatile files are not in the exports folder, it can't find it. And we only do that when we go into the export process. So here's the issue. If we do this like this, and we say, okay, we know it's in the parent directory, then the problem is that when we want to update this, we just need to change it to do this. I mean, it's not a problem, it's just different. The dog was in his bed sleeping, so I do not think it was him unless he quickly snuck back in there because he knew he did something wrong. I don't give him that much credit. He's pretty smart, but I don't think he's that smart. All right, so why can't this open the file? This is a stupid thing to not work. I'm not just spelling it wrong, right? Metatile dot metatile, and that's the number. And then I'm loading it based on that. And it is just exporting to assets export, so the metatile file should be right here, one parent folder up. Let's see here. Parent directory. Load project. Working path. What is working path? Get parent path, working path. Get absolute path of working path. Map file full path. So whatever that is, when we're changing map file prefix. Move these into the hooks. Yeah, I know that. We load, and then we go through that, and then we change to whatever this is. What is that going to have in it? Map file prefix is to, yeah, the export folder. That's what I thought. So we made it, and then we moved to that, and then do we have any other place where we change? Just at the end, we go back to the working directory. Why is this being difficult? Where's that? Thought I had some other... Oh, system hooks. Let's see if forcing it to the absolute path fixes the problem. So this will hopefully turn that into the full C:/projects/shooter/assets. One thing I've noticed about my streams lately is that if I don't upload the stream recording the night of, and I try and upload it the next day, it takes a while before YouTube actually processes the file. Like, it'll get uploaded and it'll sit for, you know, anywhere between half an hour and an hour before it actually gets processed and is visible. So I got to remember to, nope, this didn't work. Let's see, projects, shooter, assets, metatile, 0.metatile. That is the full absolute path, and file is returning -1. What is going on? So I got to remember to upload these at night. But sometimes it's just been late. I'm tired and don't feel like putting a description. What is going on? Open with options. File name. File handle. File name. File flags. Open S. File name. File flags. Write read. This is temp handle. It's not working. What? Open S returned 2. What does that mean? It's been a while since we've had to go to Microsoft for some answers, but now we're going to do it. Their documentation is fairly robust, thankfully. Alright, so the return values: e-access, e-exist, e-in-val, e-file. Is the problem that it exists? What? E-access. E-no-ent. path not found. Really? I mean, it's the full... If I... Okay, so that was a bad example because there is no metatile 0. Damn it. That is dumb. Okay. But even still, we were looking at 6 at one point and it was not working. I thought. Yeah, we definitely had... It didn't have anything in it. Because... Otherwise, it would have processed something. Current working metatile. Am I going crazy? Like, am I going to have... Well, you know what? We did change this to be the absolute path. So it could be that it even worked with the relative path, and because I was checking the first one that doesn't exist, it was failing and I didn't realize that. So I don't know that we need to change the get absolute path part, but we want to start at 1 since we know 0 doesn't exist and won't because it's an empty metatile. It's just a spacer. But okay, so let's just let that run. I mean, we know it was empty because I brought up one of the files in YYCHR and there was nothing there. So there it is. Great. Okay. So that was a little bit of a weird detour, but we should have actual real data now. Real data, none of this fake data nonsense. Okay. Let's rebuild. Reload the ROM, debug, PPU viewer. All right, now we've got some stuff. The sprites are wrong, but that's okay. I'm willing to... Oh, okay, so the sprites are actually working. That's exciting. Some of this stuff is perhaps not the way that it should be, but the rest of it is looking relatively decent. So the question is now, well, there are two parts. The first part is, did we destroy the sprites accidentally? And I think the answer is yes, we did. In the load that we updated, but that hi, is 20 your final answer? I guess it is. Okay. I'm not super worried about that right now. My guess is that we just have too much stuff, and it was assuming, let's see. What is it checking? It's checking to see if this is load a 20 clear carry add to, so it's just doing, oh no, Yeah, that's not what I guess that's not what I wanted to do that at. Oh, it's checking, right. It's checking to see if the temporary pointer matches. Okay. That's fine. Like if we just do... I just want to make sure that I'm actually affecting something here, like I thought. It still looks like a lot of stuff copied in. That's just that should just be 255, right? Because we're adding that to, or 256. That's just adding it to the entity pointer. Except I guess it's already. Interesting. That's just incrementing by 1. Oh, I see. It's not, it hasn't copied everything for the title screen. That's why we're getting that junk there. That's fine. That at least makes a little bit of sense. Okay. So that's all the background stuff, and then there's actually more backgrounds. Okay. Yeah, I see what's going on. So we do actually have too many metatiles here to get the sprites to work properly. So that will be something we have to, that's something we'll have to revisit. And that could also explain then why the backgrounds are messed up. Oh, well, no. I think I know why the backgrounds are messed up. Are we adding to them based on the offset of the title screen still? I think we are. I don't think I changed that. Is it 58 or 59? I don't remember. All of the values that are coming in from the map buffer are not adjusted for the fact that we insert the title screen tiles before. So we need to, in the export process, we increment them, or we should be incrementing them. But I don't know if we're doing that properly. I think we might just be, I think that code might have gone away. Yep, there it is. So there's the map buffer being written out. I don't see us here. So it's a simple thing to adjust because I think it's what tile is that? .5c. That's 5c. That seems like a lot. Is it 5.9 in hex? That seems more like my recollection of what it is. Oh, it's 59. That may have just been dropped because of all the shuffling we're doing with everything. So let me grab the map file again and replace it and rebuild. Maybe we'll get a map that sort of somewhat maybe resembles a little bit. Where is this? Nope, these are still not adjusted. Did this not? Right, it ran. Those are the adjusted values now. Although, now that I say that, are we automatically adding? I don't remember. I should probably look this up before I just assume. But here we are. Let's. I'm tired. I just want to kind of get to a good stopping point here. Where's the PP viewer? I don't even know what that's doing. That's 0E. It's looping back, maybe. Level data. Standard map, map one object, map one object, map one dot bin. I don't care about that. Let's just double check we're not already doing this increment. We are doing it. Okay, that's why it wasn't here. Sorry. My bad. Thought it was weird that that code would have disappeared, but at the same time, I couldn't really remember where that was being done. So we replace that, and that goes back. I think probably the issue we're having right now is related to how many metatiles there are. I mean, we have some metatiles that are like, 13. Right, that's, sorry, 11. This one is, what? This is 20. So, like, those should be fine. We're adding 55 here. So, like, 13 and whatnot should be fine. Like, we should be getting these. But there are probably others. Although, I don't know. I don't see... Like, what is the tile that we're using there? 30? It should still be okay. So I'm not 100% sure why now this isn't working. Like, for the sprites, I know why it's not working. It's because we've got so much data now for these metatiles that we're not copying over enough to give us our sprites, which is why it's using these seemingly random characters for the sprites. So that's okay, or as okay as it can be right now. What I don't understand is why the background isn't working when it seems like it should be. I assume this is, if we look at the name table, so streamer, that streamer text is still there. That's what that's okay. We might want to get rid of that at some point so we don't have to do the addition and waste this space because it's character RAM. If we look at the map here and we compare, that's the cloud, that's the ship. I feel like this has suddenly become an Atari game. Is the problem... Oh, you know, the problem could be attribute related. The problem could be attribute related because but it's not those, you know, it'd be one thing if it were attribute related and the colors were just all messed up. It's just not right. So is the level, so that's the next question. Is it the level height and width or the row count? Let me think about that. We export the metatiles with their proper index. So there's nothing that needs to be adjusted there. And then we also export the row count. What is the row count? 46, which is what? That's 70. 70, is that 70? Yeah, that's 69. That's fine. That's the maximum. So all of that looks okay. We have our palettes getting loaded correctly. What are the tiles at the locations here? Tile index 81, 81, 82, 83, and 84. So 81, 81, 81. 82, 83, 84. So it's off by 1, but this should be just this water. 81, 82, 83, 84. But what about like over here? Where it should be the forest tile. 81, 82, 83, 84. 81, 82, 83, 84. Wait, that was the same. As this. And this is the same. This is the same. This is the same. Like, this is 6D. What is 6D? 6D, 6D, 6D. 6D is that. Which, that's not right. Let's do this. There's the emulator. So, okay, so it's like partially, actually, no, something's not quite right. I mean, beyond the obvious stuff that's not quite right. The attribute stuff definitely seems to be a problem. But also, all right, let's do this. Let's make this map bigger, because I wonder if there is some sort of issue with the fact that it's relatively small compared to what I had been testing with previously. I'll just kind of stamp out some repeating stuff. What is that? Missing tiles. That's the other map, which we don't care about. It's because they're part of the same world file. All right. This is now bigger. Let's re-export the bigger map and see if that has something to do with it. Let's just make sure that this is actually, yep, so that's AA now. So now if we, there could be just a bug that if the map is too short for some reason, it can't handle loading it. I don't know why that would be. No, it's weird. It seems to be consistent, at least in its weirdness, but it's still not making me feel good about this. It's so late. Like, if doing this made it work, in the sense that, like, it looked fine, it looks like it's off by 1, and it's not quite long enough. Like, it's just not right. But the weirdness is, like, consistent with the way it's loading the map, so I suppose that's good, but it's still not as good as it should be. What would... Let me see something here. There's nothing that comes after this. So it's not like it's... I don't think that it's a problem with the size of the ROM. Maybe it is. Let me try something here. I mean, if we, even if this isn't going to work and we see the behavior change to it being a little bit less goofy by making this change, I'm okay ending here because at least we know what the problem is and we have a possible solution. But let's see if we get there. Okay, so now we had sprite data here because we only loaded a little bit of metatiles. We gotta, this is like a weird balancing act. We've got to load just enough data to make the sprite tiles align properly, which it shouldn't have. I shouldn't have to do this by hand, obviously, but for the purposes of trying to figure out what's going on. Okay, that's too much. And all I'm looking at is like the explosion starts over here in the sprite tile sets. I want this to be all the way over here. So I'm just kind of taking away this data. Getting there. That might have been too much. We'll see. No, we're real close. We're just like one metatile off. I think we could probably just go with this. It's still not right. It's still not right because we're still seeing some weird behavior with the tiles. And again, if the colors were the only issue, that'd be one thing, but it's definitely loading the wrong tiles, and we're getting tiles loading on the corners like that, which I don't remember seeing that happening for a while. Like we had problems like that at one point, but it's been a long time since we've had that. So if I copy the old map file over and reload this, oh no, I gotta rebuild it and then reload it. We may just want to do a comparison of like what's in the file. Maybe I added something or changed something in the file that I don't remember that is allowing it to work. Yeah, so now that's not having the weird problems anymore. I just want to introduce some different colors so that we can actually see whatever shows up on the screen. Although, from what I recall, there wasn't really that much that was showing up when I ran this last time. Something is not right. As cool as this looks right now, this is not the way it's supposed to be. I am going to remove one instance of that, and also that. We're just going to have this repeat twice. which I know was working. And, you know, obviously the tile sets are all wrong and different. But did I just clear out all of the data in the map for testing with this case, this instance? I don't. Let's take a look at this because this is really strange. So it was just the water with the little wavelets. And this has the island data, but it's not working. Like it's kind of doing. It's like so close. I'm not sure what is broken. I mean, and it's clear that the data is sort of there because it's doing the repeating everything, right? Like it's ignoring this for a second. It's doing this repeating process here, right? And these metatiles, like it's got this. Is it just missing the metatiles because they're further up in the? I guess that's possible. 58 and 59. What would that be? 55 hex plus 58, 143. So that's metatile 143 times 4. Oh yeah, that's not going to be there. So maybe it's working in the sense that it's got as much as it's going to have. Glitch mode, yeah. Yeah, you have to enter the Konami code to activate the real game. All right, so then what I think we probably need to do is go back to this, and right now we're just exporting every single metatile file, regardless of whether it's used or not, but that obviously isn't going to work because there's just too many of them without being able to swap things in and out. So what we need to do is keep track of the ones that are actually used, and then once we keep track of the ones that are actually used, those are the only ones we export. Let's see. Can I do a quick and dirty implementation of this? Let's see if I can do this. All right. Let's see. This is going to be uint 16 used metatiles. Let's make this a reference because it's a C# thing, a C++ thing. So what we're going to do is in this process where we are looking for the metatile stuff, and we know that we've checked it here, so let's push back I. This should actually be deck. Not that it really matters that much, but okay, so we're going to put that on the list. All right, so now that we know that which ones we've used, can I, does that work with it? No, it doesn't. Is there, I don't think that works, does it? Does vector allow you to do that, but deck doesn't? It does. Does the deck let you do that too? It does. Okay, cool. So the reason I was checking that is because what I want to do is I want to go through, but I care about the position and the deck and the order. Actually, that's probably not even the right. This is okay. We're going through and checking to see if these exist. Oh, but this is just literally looping through for all of them. It's not what I want to do. Right idea, wrong spot. So we're going to modify this to go from the beginning to the end. We're going to check to see if we've already checked this before. Otherwise, we're going to push back this as a metatile. So let's just look at that for a second. Oops, I need to put a breakpoint. Let me do that. No, because this needs the deck. You're going to get past So what do we have in here? There are 12. I'm getting the next. So the first thing to check is 12 times 4 is 48 tiles. So that should definitely fit. So the next thing is then we need to the problem is that I want to have a way of looking up which one is what number. Can I do that with this? Use metatiles. Find contains. I can iterate through this. Max size, blah, 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 size swap. C++. STL container search. That's find. Is that, did I check find? Find. That doesn't have find. What has find? Or is this just a STL? That is. So I can do. Yeah, but this is gross. It means I gotta search for the thing every time to get the index. Alright, let's just do it the gross way, and then we'll worry about that later. So for int I, we gotta loop through the map again. What we're gonna do is we're gonna say used metatile, standard find. We're gonna check used metatiles, begin used metatiles, and we're searching for map buffer I. Oh, but you know what? That just tells us if it has it. It doesn't give us the index into it, does it? I want to know the index. Because that's what I need. I need to readjust all the metatiles to match the order in the list there. All right. So instead of doing that, we'll do. If I iterator is equal to map buffer I, not assign compare, thank you. What's the problem with this? That's fine. Okay. Then I also need to know the iterator index. Let's increment that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to change map buffer I to iterator index and break. This is really crappy code. I just want to prove that this is going to work to reorganize the map, and then we'll come back and fix this. Basically, it's got to iterate through the list of used metatiles every time it checks every single element in the map. And that's just gross. Because there's no need for that. We should be able to look up the values pretty efficiently instead of what we're doing right now. And let's see, what did we say with this thing? There are 12 total. Alright, that looks good. That's actually doing the indexing the way that I expected it to. So now we've re-indexed it. So now this gross code will be giving us back what metatiles are actually used, and then we are right now in this code exporting every single metatile. That is not what we want to do. What we instead want to do is change this to only export the ones that we need. So A does not equal used metatiles dot end. plus A. So now the other issue is that needs to be that. We're using A anywhere else. We're using it right here. Okay. So this should fix that problem, because now it should just export the metatiles we actually use instead of all the metatiles that we could possibly have. But like I said, that code is yucky. That is the official terminology for what that code is. So if we look at, where is the assembly file? Game entities, metatile, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you can see that it now only exported those metatiles, and it exported them in an order that we're using in the map now. So we need to take these two things and copy them over here, and then we need to build this code. What? What are you complaining about? Make error 1. Cannot open include file metatile 81. Metatile 81. That's weird. Oops, not here. But it said, oh, 85, sorry. Oh yeah, I guess it's not there. Okay. Weird, but okay. Oh, that's the other thing. So I guess we weren't including all of the things that were actually used by the map too, because we weren't scanning the whole thing. Ah, boy. All right. So now, is this just attribute garbage that we're dealing with, or what's going on? This is a little bit promising. That orange color is not going to work for us here. Yeah, that looks closer. It's still not right. It still looks like it's maybe off by 1. But that's a heck of a lot closer to what it's supposed to be. If we go back to the PPU viewer, we're still shoving the sprites down a little bit, but yeah, only a little yucky. What is all of this extra garbage? Oh, well, wait a minute. Did it not calculate? How big is that asset filler? It's 3K. What's the actual size? That might just be too big now. Asset filler. Current background, it's less than 255. If file is greater than 0, current background tile. What is current background tile? Oh, because it was... Oh, it was going through... Yeah, this is... I gotta fix that. So current background tile is, let's see. Metatile stride, it's looping through. Right and metatile tiles, current background tile, size of. Empty tiles. What was I doing? So I'm going from 0 to 4. Current background tile. What was that being used for? Oh, okay. So it's using that. And incrementing past that. I mean, we already know the size. So we could just do current BG tile. Oh, we do it outside of the loop. Current BG tile plus equals use metatiles dot size. That should be it. That should be a lot smaller. I think. No, not that much smaller. Why? $255 minus current BG tile times 16. So that should be +1 because there's the filler. I think that already takes that into account. Let's see how that looks. And then we're going to wrap here because it's past midnight. And this has been going on for a lot longer than I expected. Let's take a look at this. Yeah, it's still off by, let's see, by about 35. Current BG tile gets set to 58, and then nothing happens to it. We know how many metatiles we're using. Oh, this should be times 4. Because it's however many metatiles times there are 4 actual tiles. And then that should help shrink that down properly now. It does look like it got smaller now. Yep. Replace. It's building. Wrong thing. Where's the emulator? Because I closed it. Open the PPU viewer. Okay, that's what I was expecting. All right, now our sprites are back. Actually, is everything back the right way now? Just with the wrong colors? That would be exciting. No, no such luck there. It's awfully close, though. It's actually ridiculously... Oh, am I forcing... I'm not sure why that's doing that. Alright, so let's take a look at this for a second. What is the alignment that we're seeing here that would potentially cause this? It's like really close. Like this is correct. That's correct, but this is not. Unless... No. Well, things are off. We're not getting the rows exactly right. Something is not the way it should be there. If I make this blue, let's see something. So attributes are definitely part of the problem, in that we don't have them set properly. And there are the enemies, so that part of the code is still working. So that's good. So yeah, it's just something is... Did I do something dumb, like I made the width too wide or something really ridiculous like that? Map width is 16 and the NES is 256 wide, so 32 tiles. So 16 tiles at 16 width is 256, so that's okay. Alright, so I didn't screw that up. I just wanted to make sure I didn't like do some sort of dumb, fundamentally wrong thing or assumption there in my brain. The attributes being wrong makes sense because there was code that I know for a fact was loading something related to attributes in that's no longer doing that. This is actually really close. Like there's... The only thing that doesn't make sense is like why maybe the metatiles are Oh, are we off by one? Are we off by one where... Yeah, where we're getting this instead of this. I think that might be... Like if we go to the name table for a second, this is just this tile, the wavelet. So we're using this instead of this. I wonder if we're just off by one. Did we not write? I thought we wrote an empty... Well, how would we have? What is empty tiles? That's literally metatiles.bin. But we're not using that anymore. If I just... Where is the character file here? If I just literally do this, is that going to fix a bunch of it? I mean, the colors are all still wrong. What happened? I added this twice and nothing happened. Seems odd. If I add it a third time, is it ignoring it because it knows it included it already? That seems not like what it would do. Oh, I am not updating the right file. Son of a nutcracker. I was updating the exported one in the export folder, not the one in the root of the game folder, so nothing was happening. I thought it seemed weird, but I also am very tired, and so that means I'm prone to making mistakes, and I figured it's possible that that's exactly what I did. Alright, so now I did the opposite, I guess, of what I wanted, because if we look at the map, kind of shifted everything the wrong way. So if I get rid of one, make sure that this, yeah. Oh. Oh. Looks like maybe that was it. Let's see. That looks right to me. The colors are wrong because the attributes are screwed up. But everything else looks correct. So we are actually okay. So that's what's happening. So we're the value we're using for the metatile is what? We had to take away one of the metatiles to make it work. So it was one too high. Why is it one too high? If there's nothing there, the value is 0. 11 is the background color. Right? Like if I'm not looking at the objects, I want this. If I erase some stuff from the file, right? Saved it. The value is 0. Okay. So the value is 0. We don't actually have metatile 0 because metatile 0 is nothing. Am I indexing this based on a bad assumption on the numbers? Go through map max. Yeah. This should be always the index plus 1 because we're not taking into account the fact that 0 is a non-used tile. All right, so now what? File name exists, metatile 0. Why are you doing this? What did I change that it suddenly decided that it's not happy? So that's 1. And then what's the problem? Why is it looking for metatile 0? Oh, because I erased 1 and it made it 0, which doesn't exist. And I think I did another one down here. Let's fix that. Sorry. Let's export that again. Just a night flight. Oh boy. Alright, so map 1 and metatile character.inc and asset filler .character. Let's copy those 3 things over. And then let's build. And then let's reload. And then let's go into the PPU. So if this works, then we're in good shape because that means all we have to do is fix the attribute data that's not being loaded properly right now, which is not such a big deal. Let's make this kind of match if we can. 22, 37, 12, 22, 37. So this is more likely. All right, it's again, it's the attributes that are screwed up here, which is why it's not behaving, but the actual tiles are right now. If we look at the map, that is what that's supposed to look like with the colors wrong. So that is pretty exciting. Now we just got to figure out how to fix that. We're not going to do that tonight because it's already really late. But that's exciting. That means that now we are generating map data that works. And here come the enemy ships, and I can fire at them. Hooray! Ah, I don't remember adding that many. And then the palette got reset because we reloaded the map. But that's all good. That is what it's supposed to do. I thought it was much worse. I thought the problem was related to some sort of error with data alignment in the sense of like how we're loading the PPU, but it is not that. It is a combination of the attributes, and we were not indexing the data correctly. Oh, cool, thanks. Yeah, we just gotta get these last little bits ironed out, and then we can get back to working on building levels, which is excellent. Just need to figure out how to figure out what's going on, but that's good. That's all working the way it's supposed to. So, all right, let's wrap. It's 12:20. Dear Lord. As always, thank you for watching. If you want to reach me, I'm on Twitter at Clairvis. I'm on Video Game Sage as Zelius, but otherwise you can find me on Discord as Clairvis. Email me at zelius@gmail.com. Feel free to post a comment in the on the video below the description on YouTube. And stay tuned for next time. Have a great weekend. Thank you, and good night.